Hello and welcome back to another episode of Soccer Supernova with me, Amy Canavan. Today I'm absolutely delighted to be joined by Gary Caldwell. Gary, how are you?
I'm good, thanks. It's good to be on the show.
How are you keeping? How you found lockdown?
Challenging. Homeschooling was, don't know where to start. It was very, very, very difficult. I've got three kids. My girlfriend's got two, so we occasionally nearly had a full classroom when we had them all, and it was tough. I think it was tough for the kids, but hopefully now we're everyone's through that, and we can try and get back to some sort of normality.
They're nearly all back to school, it's alright.
Yeah, they're all back down here. I'm down in England,
Fab.
and all the kids are back at school, which is great for us to finally get some time to ourselves again.
Absolutely, it's well needed. So let's just crack right into it. Where did the football dream all sort of start when you were younger?
The football dream, as soon as I could walk, I think we had footballs. I was fortunate I had an older brother, Stephen, who went on to have a fantastic career as well. And both of us, when we were very young, we started walking, we kicked a ball. My dad was a junior football player. He played for Camelin Juniors, Bannockburn, Bo'ness. He won the Junior Cup in 1983 or 4, if I'm correct. I can't remember that far back, but got pictures of me and my brother on the open top bus going through Bo'ness. So from a very, very young age, we had that connection with football through my dad. And like I said, having that older brother, we always had somebody to kick the ball with. I always think, if I didn't have him, it would have been a wall I was kicking off. But fortunately, I had Stephen, and the two of us, I think, helped each other. And football has been in the family as part of our life, or the main part of our life. My mum, even now, kind of goes, "Well, we stop talking about football," but it's just all we talk about, all we really kind of live for, and it's been my whole life from a very young age.
Through your career, it's been evident that Stephen obviously helped it along the way. When you were younger, though, was there that sibling rivalry as well?
Yeah, there was. There was. I mean, I've got two boys now who are 3 years apart. We were 18 months apart, 19 months apart, so a bit closer. But my boys fight, and we used to fight. I remember once we had an actual fight, and we blamed it on the boxing gloves that we had got for a birthday or a Christmas, and they got chucked in the bin. So we lost our boxing gloves because we made up a little lie. So we had fights, we had arguments, but I think we were always there helping each other and driving each other on. I think I was the lucky one. I was the benefactor in that because he was always first to do things. So any little mistakes he made, I could benefit from them and learn from them. So he was a big help in my career in terms of that, because he was always the guy who had to go and test the water, so to speak, and then I could pick up on that and then from that. So he was a great help to me.
So he was a bit of the guinea pig. Who got into the youth football first? Was it you or him?
It was Stephen, and my dad used to always, when he used to go for trial games and stuff, my dad used to always tell me to pack my boots in the car, because you never know, if you might need a game. And it was a great lesson, because the first team we went to was North Broomage and Larbert, and on the trial night it was windy, rainy, people were getting injured, cold. It was under 11. Stephen was he would have been 9 or 10, and I was 8, I think, 7 or 8, and somebody got injured, or the numbers kind of changed, and my dad said, if you need a number, he'll play. So I've got my boots on at the side like a sub, ready to play, and came on the pitch and did quite well. The next child, they said, "Oh, just bring him along. He can join in for the start." And then eventually got in the team with Stephen. So we played that first year together at under 11. Then he went up to the next age group. I was still young enough to play under 11, and we both played for them for a while. Then he went to Hutchie Vale in Edinburgh, and I played. That team broke up, and my uncle actually reformed that team in Bannockburn. So I played for Bannockburn right through to kind of, we went to train with professional clubs, and then both left for Newcastle. But it was a great piece of advice from my dad to say always be prepared to play, because you never know when that opportunity is going to come.
Absolutely, it's spot on. So obviously you do go to Newcastle, but were there other professional clubs maybe up here kicking around at that time as well?
Yeah, there was. The first professional club we went to was actually Hearts. Don't know if I can say that, having played for Hibs and Celtic, but it was a local scout was called Scott Gibson, who lived in Bo'ness, and he was working for Hearts at the time, and he took me and Stephen into Hearts. But then when we were about 13 or 14, he then went to work for Newcastle. He was an excellent scout in Scotland, knew every young player in Scotland. He knew about them, their family, everything. And Newcastle done well to kind of pluck him from Hearts, take him to Newcastle, and all the kind of players, myself, Stephen, Lee Barrett was a young player for Bo'ness who was a bit older than us but was doing really well. He tried to take Stuart Malcolm, who's now the manager of Forfar, and obviously Brian Kerr came down with me, and we played in the same youth team. So there was a lot of Scottish players at that time that Scott took down. So Hearts were the first team we played for, but we went to, my dad's not a supporter of any team really. My mum's side of the family are all big Celtic fans, but my dad was really supported football. He enjoyed watching any team, and he although we were kind of drawn to Celtic with my mum's side of the family, I would never say we were diehard Celtic fans, because of my dad and his basically focus on just go and watch football, go and enjoy any team playing good football. So at a young age, he was very much against the old S form at that time.
Right.
So when we went to Hearts, they wanted to sign S forms, and my dad said, "No, they're no signing. They want to just train." And that, I think, was great advice as well, because we then went to Dundee United, we went to Celtic, we went to Rangers, and then when we got a bit older and England opened up, we went to Newcastle, Manchester United. I remember going down to Chelsea, Liverpool. I went to a lot, and they were the two teams really when I was deciding to leave school. Liverpool and Newcastle were the two teams that I was deciding between. They had a academy manager called Steve Highway, who was there as a player and spent a number of years in the academy, and it was a great academy. But with Stephen being at Newcastle and the connection we had at Newcastle, I just felt probably because of him and having that security, your brother there, that was why I decided to go to Newcastle.
Obviously, you mentioned your dad didn't get you to sign that S form. Do you think that helped along with the enjoyment of it, that you weren't tied down to anything? As you say, youngsters nowadays they're so get into that academy football and from such a young age, but maybe going from club to club kept that enjoyment and dream alive.
Without a doubt, yeah. And I say it to my youngest boy, is 11, and quite a big player. And he's had clubs come up and speak to me at different things, and he's went into training at Man City when he was a bit younger, and Man United for a bit. And there's no rush, and I see other kids in his team that their parents, they want to drive them to Bury and to Rochdale and to all these clubs, and I say, like, just, he's getting good coaching where he is, he's playing with his mates, he's enjoying it, and that is enough at 11-year-old. I think it's more the parents that see the bright lights of Man United, Man City, and they think at 11, because they go there, that they're going to be a footballer. And I know from experience, you're a million miles away. Even when you're in the youth team at Man United or Man City, you're a million miles away from being a player at those clubs. So as long as you're enjoying football, you are getting something out of it in terms of the love for the game, the physical element of the game, how good it is for your mental health and stuff like that. I think growing up, that should be the priority. Whether you're going to be a footballer or not, once you get to the later years and teen years, then ultimately that'll be the decision. Then it shouldn't be the focus as a young player.
I do think you're spot on there, and it is something that we talk about quite a lot on this show. As you said, it's that parental push really. So obviously you get to Newcastle, you're obviously your brother's there. That's a bit of that safety net. What was it like when you first went down?
It was brilliant. Me and Brian Kerr, who was my assistant at Partick Thistle and one of my best friends in football, we used to go down when we were still at school. And I think my oldest boy's 14 now, and I was 15 at the time when I done this. I don't know how my mum allowed me to do it, and I certainly wouldn't allow my oldest boy to do it. But she would, after school, she'd have a little packed lunch, pick me up, rush me straight to Stirling train station, where I'd get on a train myself, get the train down to Edinburgh. Kersey would get on the train at Motherwell, which was going direct to Newcastle, but would go through Edinburgh. I'd then change platform at Edinburgh to get the Edinburgh train, meet Kersey. We'd both have our kind of packed lunch dinner, get down to Newcastle Friday night. Somebody would pick us up from the station in Newcastle and take us where Stephen and all the other youth team players were. And we'd play for the youth team on a Saturday morning. And then right after the game, we'd get the train back. And just a brilliant, at 15-year-old to be doing that with your mate and just having a laugh. We used to get expenses off Newcastle for the train fare. So if we could not pay the train fare, then we got that as kind of pocket money. So we'd always have wee tricks of the trade of going into the toilet or falling asleep to try and get away with paying the fare, and then they would give us the money. And just a brilliant education and growing up and responsibility and having to, look at a train platform and change trains. And I think that's gone for kids nowadays, where you probably HR and all the kind of protocols that are in place now, a club wouldn't allow a young player from Scotland to do that anymore, which I think is wrong, because those little experiences that we had doing that helped us grow up. And then when we went down the following summer, we both left school and went down and lived together. We were in a hotel for a bit that had people looking after us from the club, and then we went into digs, just me and Brian, in Whitley Bay, and then we got a house on our own. But all those kind of stages of development, I think in the modern day, we take too much responsibility away from kids, which then when we then ask them to make decisions and to grow up, they're not prepared for that. So those were, in my opinion, a great education and a brilliant times, like just having fun basically, and never at any point did I think football was a job or any sacrifice I had to make. Whilst I think to be a footballer, I think you have to make loads of sacrifices. It's only now when I look back at the sacrifices I made, because at the time it just felt like it was my life and it was what I wanted to do. So great memories, kind of thinking about that early education in football.
It's an early education, like you say, off the pitch. What was it like on the pitch?
On the pitch was, well, really tough, because at 15 we were playing against kind of 18, 19-year-olds. So that challenge, was really tough in terms of physicality. Obviously, we were playing a few years up. We were good enough to get in the team, which was great, but it really tested us. And I think even nowadays that's gone a little bit as well, where teams want to win at that age and want to play their oldest team, their best team, whereas Newcastle, probably ahead of their time back then, that they identified certain players that they felt could play for the first team, which Brian and Stephen both did. I didn't, but went on to play for other first teams, and they identified that they're trying to develop players, and if you're 15 and you're good enough to play for the 18s, and the 18s probably don't win as much because of that, then that is what youth development is all about. It's about developing players, not about winning games of football. And I think they were ahead of their time in that. In terms of training, again, I loved training. It was tough when I went down to the youth team. Alan Irvine, a great Scottish coach, was our youth team coach, and he was extremely demanding. The training was very physical every day, but it was always with the ball. He always told us to play the right way, as I think it is. So time for the back, pressing teams. Tommy Craig was our reserve team coach, another Scottish coach who all he spoke about was pressing, and this would have been 21 years ago. You know, and we talk now about Jurgen Klopp and gegenpress and counter pressing and all these fancy words. Tommy Craig was coaching high press, high energy, winning the ball back quickly with our reserve team 21 years ago. So it shows how good the coaches were, and our education at Newcastle at that time was brilliant because of the coaches.
You touched upon Alan Irvine there, and he is an extremely well-respected coach. Are you quite surprised in the sense that how ahead of his time he was, that he's not really kicked on in a managerial career up until this stage?
No, having seen management, you know, in my kind of few years that I've had in management and coaching, I'm not surprised. It's not just about the level of coaching. There's other stuff involved in management. I think in terms of on the grass, what he does as a coach, he's second to none. And that is, you know, where he is now at West Ham and how well they're doing, I think reflects that. But in terms of management, there's other facets of football management that are, if you know, the show could go on for another 4 or 5 hours to discuss them in detail as the intricacies of football management. So I think he's found, I wouldn't say his level, but he's found a job that suits him. I think he'll open. I've met him a few times. He lives near me, and through the LMA, I've met him at different times to help mentor me in different things. And he is a coach more than a manager, and a very good coach at that. So I think he's at a great level now, helping, you know, a great manager and helping a team to definitely this season exceed expectations.
They absolutely are. So obviously, at the time though, the manager was Bobby Robson. Even at such a young age, could you see his greatness, or was you a bit blinded to it probably?
Yeah, he's somebody I worked with at kind of 17, 18, and I wished I worked with him when I was 27, 28 because of how good he was. And only when I got older, I appreciated how good you could see he was very good. You could see the experience and the respect that, you know, I didn't work with him every day, but the people like Gary Speed, Alan Shearer, Shay Given, Rob Lee, the respect that they gave him was phenomenal. His ability to deal with Kieran Dyer, Craig Bellamy, younger players, top young players of that generation, was second to none. He was, you know, a father figure to them at times, but also very hard on them at times. And he was somebody that I had to remember. I wanted to go on loan. I wanted to play games in first team, and my agent said, "You need to go and chap the manager's door." And I was bricking it, having to 17, having to go and chap Bobby Robson's door and tell him, "I'm ready to play in your first team." And he would just, in a good way, looking back now, he just went through a list of, I don't know, I forget how many it was, but he was, you can't do this, you can't do that. So he would say to me, like, you're not quick on the turn, your left foot's not good, you need to be better in the air, you need to be this, you need to be this, you need to be, and it was just like, wow, you know, like he just hit you with it. And he was right, looking back, but he was also very fair. And I said, I'd like to go on loan and kind of learn those things out of here. Not a problem. And he would set that up. And a brilliant manager who, like I said, I wished, you know, I worked with him more in terms of being in the first team squad and when I was older and could appreciate him more because he was outstanding. And even just to get the little bits that I got, I feel fortunate that I've got that and had that kind of relationship with him.
Talk about your loan moves. I think you had 3 when you were at Newcastle, Darlington, Derby and Hibs. What were they crucial periods of your development?
Yeah, I think so, because I got released from Newcastle and I'd played over 100 league games, and now as a manager, certain players get released from Premier League clubs, and I look at their CV, and they'll be lucky if they've played 5 league games, and then it becomes a risk to the manager because there's that uncertainty of how they will handle men's football. So I was fortunate, or seen that opportunity to say, I'm not going to sit here in the reserves. I need to go and play. The first one was it was the old third division. It's now League Two with Darlington. That was an eye opener in a sense of, wow, this is people who are playing for their livelihoods, for their mortgage. I remember the centre half I played with, David Brightwell, who after every game had ice for head to toe, because he used to go and head everything. I wasn't the biggest anyway, even when I kind of was in my kind of 20s. But at that age, I was small and not physically really developed. So he used to just say, "I'll go and head everything. You cover and kind of read the game." And I became that person when I was in my late 20s. I was the one. So it was. You see how kind of the cycle of the game goes, but real education and winning football, real education. And I remember I played against a player at Scunthorpe who I'll never forget the look in his eyes where he knew he had me. He looked at a young 17-year-old boy and said, you don't know what's coming today. And he battered me physically in the air. I just couldn't deal with them. Steve Torpey, I remember his name. I'll remember it till the day I die. But those little education were so important, I felt, in my development. And I said after I played 4 games for Darlington, and I said to my agent, it was brilliant, but I never want to play at that level again, because I seen how tough it was. I seen how difficult it was. The football they played, I'd never experienced before, but it gave me that taste of it. And I think young players nowadays at the bigger Premier League clubs, they turn their nose up at those kind of teams, and they shouldn't, because if you think you are a good player, you need to go to that level and prove it. And once you prove it at that level, then that's how you step up the ladder. And too often, I've had it myself when I've been a manager. Oh, he's not coming to that level. He thinks he's better than that level, and then I look at the player's career, and he doesn't ever go any higher than that level. So I think players should be more open to going to clubs at that level. And then, like I said, you go up. So I went to Hibs after that, which was a massive jump up in terms of Premier League football against Celtic. Henrik Larsson, Sutton, Hartson, that team was phenomenal. Michael Moles, the De Boers at Rangers, a massive jump up. Then went to the Championship in England with Coventry and Derby. So I left Newcastle a relatively experienced player, having never played for the team actually, my parent club. So I think that was important in my development, and then leaving Newcastle with a bit of a reputation.
Does it make that leaving Newcastle that a little bit easier? Obviously, it's never nice because obviously the dream, I assume, would have been to have played in the Premier League with Newcastle. But does it make it a little bit easier? You've had that taste of, like you say, playing against Larsson, the De Boers, and obviously eventually do come up to Hibs anyway.
It did, but it's still, my dream was to play in the Premier League. So I was still, I think it kept that drive and hunger as well. So I think I left. I had opportunities to go to other clubs, whereas if I hadn't had those games, where would I went? I don't know. But I left with that disappointment of, I don't know what the Premier League's like. I want to get back there one day. So I always had that hunger, which was probably a good thing.
So obviously you had that little load spell up at Hibs. Was it always an ambition then to go back up there, or were they just the most appealing club at that time?
It was a club I really enjoyed. My loan spell I loved, and like I said, there was a few other clubs, but as soon as the interest was there for them, I knew the club, I knew some of the players, I knew Bobby Williamson. It was a no-brainer really to go back there and kind of continue my career from there. And I loved my time. Both my spells at that club were amazing.
So you go up and you were really thrown right in the deep end. I think your debut was against Celtic, and then you had the League Cup coming. Obviously, you're playing in that semi-final, beating Rangers. Does it rejuvenate that? Right, it was all sort of worth it.
Yeah, it does. It's like you're a player then, and I think when you become or you get into first team, you are in. And again, only now looking back, it is such a bubble you're in. You're like in a bad way probably, but the outside world is irrelevant. All that mattered to me as a player was Saturday afternoon or Tuesday evening, Wednesday evening, and winning a game of football. And literally, there could have been all sorts going on in the world, but that was my focus, and that's all I concern myself with. And I think that's probably wrong in hindsight. Looking back, you should have more. You should think about more, and there's a bigger picture. But that was the way I was. I was just programmed to live for a Saturday and to win games of football and do everything I can from Monday to Friday to try and make that happen. And once you get into that, it's a cycle, and you develop a thick skin. You have to be very resilient in football, and you have to learn quickly from mistakes and try and improve all the time, because it's never just a plain upward curve. It's always kind of peaks and troughs, highs and lows that you have to deal with. That's probably the biggest thing. Even when I look at top players, the very top Champions League international footballers, they don't have it brilliant all the time. They have highs and lows. So that is, for footballers, that mental resilience is huge.
Obviously, early on in your career, it was that League Cup loss. That was the first real big low. It was a very talented side, that Hibs side, and coincidentally, you were gaining your first Scottish international caps as well. Did you feel that there was a special bunch amongst you?
Yeah, I think, again, like I said, you just play football. You almost become robotic a little bit. You're just doing your job. You're not really thinking too far down the line. You're not aware of how good potentially you can be. I think when Tony Mowbray came in, you got a sense he knew it. He could sense, I've got a group of players here that I can mould. And I think it was a great job for him, because we were also young, eager, talented, hungry players that he could just send us out, however he wanted to play, and we would have done it. We would have followed that. But it was a brilliant team to play in. It'd have been great to win something. I think we were all a little bit young. We didn't have that experience. We did have Gary Smith, Stephen Glass, Simon Brown, but we didn't have enough experience to help us win something. But all those players, the younger players, went on to Celtic, Rangers down in England. Some went abroad and went on to have great careers. So it shows you what a talented team it was. And it was a great team to play in.
It was a talented team. When did you first come aware that there was the rumours of Celtic?
Through my agent, really. We had kind of contact from Celtic. Then Gordon Strachan wanted to come to my house. So from the January, I was a free agent to speak to other clubs, because my contract was running out in the summer. And he came to my house in Edinburgh. I had an apartment right in the middle of Edinburgh, and he came one night with his full tammy on and covered up so that nobody could see him, and came in and spent an hour and a half in my house just talking football. And straight away I had a connection with him. Obviously, Celtic were a massive club. My mum's side of the family were all big Celtic supporters. I had been to a lot of games as a kid. It was a big move for me, and I was keen to do it. And I always kept Tony Mowbray really in the loop. He knew that Gordon was coming to my house. There was never anything done behind his back. And even when I signed the pre-contract, I said, he was the first call I made on the way home from Celtic Park to say that I'd signed the pre-contract, and he was happy for me in one regard in terms of to go and play. He obviously had played for the club and knew what a big club it was, but disappointed that I was leaving the club he was manager of. And he asked me if I wanted to keep playing. I said, yeah, 100%. I was captain of Hibs, and I had to give everything till the end of the season while I was contracted, and that was it really. There was nothing kind of major in terms of between us, like big talks. It was just very honest, very open, and then I finished the season and the movement through in the summer.
You had that movement through the summer. So just before we touch on that, when you did eventually join Celtic, what was the Kirin Cup like for Scotland during that time?
The Kirin Cup was one of the best trips ever. I'm sure if you ask anyone who was on that trip, I think always the end of season trips with Scotland are good. They're a good opportunity to get the players together and to bond in terms of end of season. You've no games to go back after to your club. But that one, Walter Smith, Ali McCoy, Tommy Burns were the backroom staff, and we were already creating it was like a club atmosphere. Everyone, was really keen to go and play for Scotland, because quite often if you're not involved, it can be difficult because players are playing week in, week out for their clubs. Then they're having to go and sit on the bench, and we've all had it. I've had it for a spell under Alec McLeish where I was sub quite a lot, and you've just got to go and be a good teammate and be part of it. But under Walter, he had just a great atmosphere. I remember his first get together was actually down in Manchester, just near where I live, Mottram Hall Hotel. We went to, and he had a meeting that went on for about 3 hours. It was the longest meeting I think I've ever been involved in, and he set out his whole plan, how he wanted to play, how he was going to pick the team, and he just said, "This is how it has to be, and if you want to be a part of it, great. You can. That's it. If you don't, come and see me, and we can discuss it." And I think only one player went to see him and said, "Look, with my family situation, and if I'm not involved," and that was it. He didn't come, which is fine. But everyone else bought into it, and we had great success. So in terms of the Kirin Cup, we beat Bulgaria 5-1 in the first game, and then we actually transferred to Tokyo. I can't remember where the first game was, but transferred to Tokyo, staying in a brilliant hotel right next to the Tokyo Dome. And then we played the last game against Japan. I remember it was pouring rain. Like the pitch was amazing. It was one of the best pitches I'd ever played on. It was a World Cup pitch, and the grass it looked like it had been cut by scissors. And the rain just made the pitch so quick. So it was a brilliant pitch to play on, but we got battered. Stephen was actually in the squad, and he was on the bench, and he said he still says to this day it's one of the best backs against the wall performances he's ever seen, because we just, in typical Walter fashion, we parked the bus and got a 0-0 draw. I remember coming in after the game, there was crates of Kirin, because Kirin was a beer. There was about 6 crates of beer lined up in the middle of the, because I'd done an interview, so the team had kind of had a meeting, and people were just drinking beer still in their strips, and I thought, well, this is going to be a long night. And his only instructions was, be back on the bus tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. It leaves at 9 o'clock for the airport, and you make sure you're on it. And when Walter said something, you listened to it. You didn't, break that rule. And me and my brother were rooming together in it, God knows what time, and in our stupidity decided we could grab a little hour or two kit before we got on the bus. And at 9:10, our hotel phone went. It was Richard Simpson, who was the operations manager, saying, "Get your arses on the bus." So we quickly got our gear on the bus. Sorry, Gaff, sorry. And he just went, "The 2F and Caldwells." I might have known, but he was fine. But he was somebody with Walter, you never wanted to cross him. He was a brilliant man manager. Really good with you, but when like I said, when he said a time or he said something, you wanted to follow that because the respect that you had for him. But it was one of many brilliant Scotland trips. I could write a book on Scotland trips with some of the stories, but most of them you can't say.
Do you think the achievements maybe a little bit overshadowed? Do you think it's sort of forgotten about a little?
No, I think it was a good achievement. It was only 2 games. The biggest thing as well was we travelled. The first game was we didn't have lots of time to acclimatise, and I always remember people were the breakfast room at like 5 in the morning was full. Everyone would be sitting at breakfast at 5. Nobody could sleep, and then you go for training at like 4 or 5 in the afternoon, and everyone would be sleeping on the bus going to training. It was weird. So again, it showed the effort. You know, if there's one thing I could say about Scotland squads, we might never have obviously been good enough to qualify in my era, but the application and the effort that I seen from everyone that turned up on the trips was phenomenal. You know, we didn't not qualify because of lack of effort, and that trip personified that, where people were knackered, you know, like physically knackered after a hard season, travelling, time difference was, but yet we went out and beat Bulgaria 5-1 just by people digging in, people helping each other, and that was what I loved about Scotland. And yeah, you know, at times you could question their quality, or you know, other teams were better than us, but you could never question anyone's commitment to the country.
So you come in off the back of a great summer, and then you're right in at the deep end at Celtic. What was it like that first day walking in at Parkhead?
I've been talking about that recently with all the kind of speculation of who the next manager is, and I was brought up, my mum's side of the family, Celtic supporters, had seen the club, had been to watch games, and when you walk in that door as an employee, you realise the magnitude, the size of the club. We went on pre-season to America, first pre-season, thousands of people at training, thousands of people coming to watch the game and strips, you know, not just, you know, kid on, so proper supporters with strips, with families with all the strip. And the size of the club is phenomenal. The expectation on the club is phenomenal, and you have to live with that. I think I've seen a lot of great players, you know, great players come to that club that couldn't deal with that expectation, couldn't really produce their best because of that. But for me, I loved every second. I loved the challenge. I loved working with the manager. Gordon Strachan was amazing for me as a player in my development. Pushed me to be better, but also backed me at times when, you know, I played right back on occasions, and anyone who's seen me will know I'm not a very good right back, but he trusted me. We needed, you know, somebody to do it, and he gave me great support in those periods when I might have got a bit of stick off the supporters or not been playing my best. That backing he gave me was really important to me in helping me have a successful career at the club.
What was it like walking in straight away? And you've touched on it there. It is a massive club, and there is that expectation to win every single cup, to win every single league title.
I enjoyed it. I thrived on it, and actually, funny, when I went to Wigan, my first day at Wigan, I'll never forget, because I went in and I was like, what's going on here? Because we had, in my time at Celtic, training was like nothing I'd ever experienced. It was like harder than the games, and that's no disrespect to the teams we were playing, but training would be full throttle, tackles, cuts, fights, and I mean every day. Even on a Friday, the day before a game, we used to play young v old, and that was like competitive. And nowadays with sports science, the Fridays have probably changed a bit, but we would play when I think it was like 15 minutes each way, so half an hour of full out 9v9 like game, and it was so competitive. And I went to Wigan, team languishing, they weren't in the bottom three, but maybe fifth bottom, sixth bottom Premier League, playing a different style of football. And the first day I put a tackle in, that the whole session just stopped, because they were like, what is going on here? And I thought, like, no, if we want to be the club that I want us to be, then training, the standards have to come up, the demands have to come up. So it was interesting having that contrast going from Celtic to Wigan, because in my time at Celtic, it forced me to be, you know, first is first, second is nowhere. It's a famous saying, but it very much rings true when you play for Celtic, and you have to get into that mindset, not just on a Saturday. Every single day of your life, that has to be your mindset. And it was in that squad. That was the best squad I played with, without a doubt, in my 3.5 years at Celtic. The people that were there, their attitude, their competitiveness, and the quality that we had was brilliant. And a manager that, knew how to push our buttons and knew how to push us all to bigger and better levels.
What was it like when you did eventually get that first league title?
It was amazing. I remember we were quite comfortable. It was a year where we were. I was it. Who was the manager? The Paul Le Guen, I think, might have been the Rangers manager, and they were struggling a little bit. And we were always comfortable the lead that we had. But we played Motherwell. I think it was one of the first games after the split, and it was one of the worst games of football I'd ever played. I was terrible. The team was terrible, and we won 1-0. And I'll never forget Gordon Strachan after the game said, "Brilliant," and I'm like, "Brilliant? We were awful." And he said, "This is what it takes. You need to get over the line. You need to win those games. We kept a clean sheet. We got the goal. We just done enough." And it was a big lesson and for my future in terms of Celtic and with Wigan and then going into management. It can't always be exactly how you plan it. It can't always be pretty football. There's times you need to dig in and find a way to win a game of football. And that first season really, really taught me that, even though we were quite comfortably clear.
What were the European nights like for you?
They were incredible. The best. Them and the Old Firm games were the best games, club games I've ever been involved in. Just the anticipation, walking out to that music, the noise at Celtic Park was unbelievable, and the challenge of some of the players, the teams we played against were just out of this world, and it was a privilege to be on the same pitch as them. A great challenge. I always remember my dad after games would have a go at me about this, that, and the next thing, and I'm thinking, I'm playing against Ronaldinho or Henri or Kaká, and he's questioning certain things, and I said, I'm bloody trying to do what you're asking me to do, but the speed of the game, and I always remember the ball, the Champions League ball always seemed to be quicker. Just everything about it was like football, on fast forward, and any little mistake that you made, you were punished. So again, the environment, had to take your game to the next level, because if you didn't, you were punished. And they were phenomenal games to play in, especially the home games, because of the atmosphere that gets created at Celtic Park.
I think it was more in your second season that you really did start to build such a strong partnership with Stephen McManus, didn't you?
Yeah, we did. The first year, obviously, we're getting to know each other. We'd known each other. We played Scotland schoolboys and that together, so we'd known each other a long time, on and off. And in the first year, we were developing that relationship. Bobo Baldi was still at the club, so he was in competition with us. I then got injured in the January, I think it was. So I missed most of the second half of the season. Then when I came back in the following season, I was right back. So once we, got that understanding and then played regular, we both had a great understanding. And I think we complemented each other well. None of us were very quick. So we had that understanding of where the line was, where we were both comfortable. It wasn't like I wanted to play really high. We were in between, and we just struck up. I think it's important in teams that, on the training pitch and the work that you do, you develop that relationship, and then when it goes on the pitch, it just becomes second nature, and we managed to do that.
I think you've mentioned it before, you got a fair bit of stick for when you've been at right back. I think Andreas Hinkle came in and maybe saved you there. Who, obviously, when that all comes around then, how big a thing is it? You get that PFA Writers Player of the Year. Does it sort of go, wow, I have done all right?
I don't know. I think everyone says, it's a team game, and individual awards don't matter, and they don't. But I think anyone would be lying to say it's always nice to get recognised of what you've done. And I felt like my whole career, I was proving myself. Even when I was at Wigan, even when I'd played 50 times for Scotland, I still felt every time I'm going on the pitch, I have to prove myself. I have to prove to me, to my manager, to my teammates, to supporters, that I'm good enough. And that was my mindset in football, and never thinking, what you've done before is good enough. And I felt like every year at Celtic, I improved a little bit and a little bit. So to get the Writers' Award, and not only that, to win the league in the way that we did, coming back with 7 games to go, we were out of touch. We had to beat Rangers twice. We did, and it was it kind of typified, I think, Gordon Strachan Celtic teams, that we were very resilient teams. We never knew when we were beaten. We kept going, and that title, with Tommy Burns dying, everything that went with that season was a special season, and to get the Football Writers on top of that was amazing for myself. So yeah, that was the kind of peak, I think, of my Celtic career.
You mentioned obviously that he was part of the Scotland setup as well, for the Kirin Cup. What was it like being at the club at Tommy Burns' death?
It's weird, because it was a privilege to be at his funeral. He used to say it before he died. Like, apparently, I wasn't at Jimmy Johnson's, but he used to joke to the players, "I'll wait till you see my funeral. It'll be much bigger than this." And that was Tommy. Like, joking at the kind of, at a moment that probably a joke wasn't needed. But he was a special man. Celtic was everything to him, and he was a very big part of letting you understand that when you played for the club, what it meant, not just to him but to everyone else. And then when he had his illness and he was on and off, people missed him. And then obviously when he died, it was tragic. But then to see his funeral was like, again, like the club, it always kind of took you by surprise, because you were like, wow, the people. I'll never forget, so the church just round for Celtic Park, people outside the church, then from the drive to the stadium, the people in the streets were like 7 deep all the way into Celtic Park. Then when we turned the corner at Celtic Park, the front, which is now the Celtic Way, it used to be the car park, it was full of people. And we were on the bus following the funeral cars, and it was just mind blowing. And then even from there all the way to the cemetery, people in the street stopping cars, and it just shows what he meant to Celtic supporters. And that was on the Tuesday, a Monday or the Tuesday, and the last game of the season got put to the Thursday night because of Rangers in the Europa League. And just everything that week, and I'm not a kind of religious or a spiritual person, but it was weird. It was like, I've never went into a game knowing we were going to win. It was like it was destiny. Then I think he won a league title at Tannadice. His last league title as a player was at Tannadice. And we went to Dundee United, didn't play very well, won 1-0, and it was just an incredible comeback, an incredible night where, it felt like there was somebody up above was kind of helping us.
It certainly marked the end to a really special year. So then, obviously, Strachan stays, and then it just doesn't really take off that next game season. When Tony Mowbray comes back in, are you thinking that things are just going to be all right? Continue the fact you worked under him at Hibs, or was there a little bit of a shift up there?
No, not at all. When he came in, I was delighted. Like I said, when I left, it wasn't like I left with any animosity either way. Kept in touch with him after, and when he came in, I was delighted. I thought it would be perfect. And then I was out of contract. He was trying to get me a contract. There was a difference in where the club seen me and where I see myself at the club, which happens. I understand it happens. And that's life, that's football. Again, I had no animosity leaving Celtic. It's part of football. And there was also, I'd have stayed at Celtic my whole career, without a doubt. If I had felt that commitment from them, if I'd felt like at the club, I don't mean Tony Mowbray here, I mean the club really wanted me and showed me that and what they were going to pay me, then I would have stayed at Celtic my whole career. But then also there was also a part of me when it didn't happen in the Premier League, the opportunity to play in the Premier League week in, week out was there. Then that was, like I said, from my Newcastle days, was still really appealing. And I think I was 28 at the time. I thought, I'm in my prime. Let's go and kind of see, week in, week out, playing against the best players, test myself again and see if I can get to that level.
So obviously you did join Wigan, but in between that, what happened between Middlesbrough?
Oh, I don't like talking about this. It still sends shivers up my spine.
Don't blame you.
I went down. Gordon Strachan was Middlesbrough manager, and right from very early had called me again because we had that relationship. Love to sign you. I'd love to play for you. And everything was so easy. Wigan were always in the background, and having then worked at Wigan as a player and as manager, I understand why it took so long. So again, it was that commitment really from the club. So they were going to offer a contract. My agent said, "Oh, it's not come." It was like 2 or 3 days late. It was actually always better than Middlesbrough. There was always more money than Middlesbrough, but it always took longer, and there was always that less personal touch. And Gordon was calling me every day, and that there was that connection. So I went down on the Saturday to Middlesbrough, where they trained. There was a hotel, and Gordon lived in a house just next to the hotel. So he said, "Come down, just come down to the hotel, have a look, see what you think." And I was like, "Great." Went down Saturday night, had dinner with him and Leslie. He showed me around the training ground. Gary Pendry was there, and it was like the old mates, and you're talking. And Roberto Martinez wanted to meet me on the Sunday, and I said to Gordon, "Look, he wants to meet me. Out of courtesy, I need to go and speak to him." And Gordon said, "No problem, totally understand." And went to speak to him on the Sunday. Really loved what he had to say, but still felt this connection with Middlesbrough. So I phoned him the Sunday night, and then on the Monday morning did my medical with Middlesbrough, and my body was starting to fall to bits at that time. My hips had problems, my knee had problems. So my scans and that took longer. And Barry Robson had signed, Chris Killen had signed, and when I finished all my scans, the secretary had gone home. So it must have been 8:30, 9 o'clock at night. The secretary was away. And Gordon was like, "It's fine, we'll sign the papers in the morning and then we can get training, not a problem." Then Wigan came back in that evening. Roberto was like, "I still want to sign Gary after meeting him. I need him. And then they offered more money. And it came to the point, it was like, wow, like this club does want me. And it was like almost late in the day, they showed that we really need this player. And I was like, I have to go to Wigan. Like it was life changing. The difference in money, and also that feeling I got that now, no, they want me at this football club. So I said to my agent, what do we do? Because I was just thinking of Gordon Strachan, and he said this was like late at midnight on the Monday night. He said, we'll get Gordon over in the morning. So we got Gordon over to the hotel from the training ground, which was literally a 2-minute walk. And I'll never forget his face when he came in. He knew what had happened. He'd obviously been in the game a lot longer than I had. And he said, "What's happening?" And I said, "Wigan have came back in, and I think I'm going to have to sign for Wigan." And he just went, "That's fine." And he shook my hand. He shook my agent's hand, and he walked out. And I was like, it was like, because I had such a relationship and because he'd done so much for me, it was like a dagger in your heart, the way we reacted to it. Like if he'd shouted at me and went mental, I'd have felt much better. But he'd done it that way. And I said, "Oh, I felt so bad." And I said, "What will we do?" And my agent, being an agent and having seen it all, just said, "We'll go to Wigan." We went to Wigan, done a medical, and 9 o'clock on the Tuesday night, I signed for Wigan. And I waited a good 2 or 3 months, and then called Gordon, and he said, "Look, it's football. It happens. You have to do what's right for you, your family." and then he was Scotland manager. I played a few games, and I play golf with him and speak to him now. So there's no kind of ill feeling, but it was a difficult moment. But then signed for Wigan, and it taught me a lesson. When I've been a manager and I've been trying to sign players, I tell the secretary, you ain't going anywhere until this boy signs. And I tell them that story that anything could change. So we do not take our eyes off this player. You're staying in this building, whether it's midnight, until he signs this paper. And I'm sure Gordon Strachan probably regret, because if the secretary was there on the Monday night, I'd have been a Middlesbrough player without a shadow of a doubt. But again, Middlesbrough were in the Championship, so that was even though, like I said about the Premier League, I thought I could go to Middlesbrough, we'll get up, we'll go back into the Premier League. But this way with Wigan, I was going straight into the Premier League, and that opportunity that I'd craved from obviously my Newcastle days.
That poor wee secretary, I bet she got a rollicking in the morning. What was, obviously, like you say, it's been spoken about a lot recently, the Martinez links to Celtic, however real and fundamental they may be. How good was Roberto Martinez, though, for you?
He was brilliant for me. He made me captain that summer, so I signed in the January. I had hip surgery that summer as well, so there was, like I said, my body was starting to fall apart a bit. I had double hip surgery, which was brilliant and gave me, the years after that was the best I'd felt in terms of physically, experience, confidence, belief. Everything was the best I'd felt in my whole career. He made me the captain, and we had a brilliant relationship. Could speak to him. I spoke to him most days, to be honest, in his office, 1-to-1, about coaching, about playing styles, why we do certain things. And he took not my game necessarily, more my coaching and my thinking of longer term and how I seen football. He took that to another level. He is without doubt the best tactician I had worked with as a manager. He saw the game, almost like a game of chess, and he analysed every little piece and how we moved this. And when I went there, Wigan had never beat a top four team. So the old top four would have been Liverpool, Man United, Chelsea and Arsenal. And we used to beat them regularly. Even though we were down the bottom of the league, we beat Liverpool home away, we beat Chelsea, we beat Man United for the first time ever as a club when Sean Maloney scored. We beat City, obviously, in the Cup final. And that was because Roberto tactically was so clever, and we were never scared of these teams. And he showed me that as well, that there should never be an inferiority of playing these bigger teams. Yes, they have better players. Yes, they have more money, but you have to be true to how you see the game, how you believe the game should be played, and give your players belief to go and carry that out. And we would go to Old Trafford. We would play toe-to-toe. We wouldn't sit in. We would quite often dominate possession. We took a few hammerings because on transition and the Rooneys, the Van Persies, they could just kill you in 1 second. But that didn't kind of stop him from trying to play the way he wanted to play. And ultimately it won Wigan. Wigan, a team that had come from, I can't even remember what league they started in. It got them to win an FA Cup, which is a remarkable story, and stay in the Premier League as long as they did. Not playing defensive football, playing real attacking football. So tactically, he was a genius.
What was that FA Cup run like?
I never played a game. I was injured, but I was sub in the semi-final and the final.
The semi, yeah.
And it was in the quarter-final. We played Everton away, and we battered them 3-0, playing unbelievable football. It was the year before he changed to a 3-4-3, and again, tactically, before his time, before Antonio Conte came to Chelsea and done it and won the league, before anyone was really playing a back three, we changed to a back three. I'll never forget. He actually, when I met him in Harrogate when I was at Middlesbrough. He told me that day, we're going to play a back three. You'll play in the middle. Your lack of pace that'll cover for that. I want you to be the leader. I want you to control the team, the tempo of the play. I want you to be the voice of the team. And I was like, sounds brilliant. And then went in and played a back four. But then that summer he started doing little sessions on a back three early in the week. Then we'd go away from it, play the game, and then it took him about 6 months of small coaching sessions. And then when we went to it, I remember all of us thinking, wow, like we were struggling and we're going to a back three. This is madness. And we became a brilliant team. When Sean Maloney had just came, but then he added Jean Beausejour, who was a Chilean left winger from Birmingham. And I'll never forget, Roberto was brilliant at it. He's the most positive person. I think I'm positive, but he is the most positive person ever. And he told me we're signing the best left wing back in the world. And I thought, Jesus, who are we signing? And then it was Jean Beausejour. And I thought, I'm not sure he is. And then when I seen him play, he was perfect for that position. He understood the position better than anyone I've ever seen play wing back. He was amazing. And we had Sean who would come in and the rotations we used to play with. And it was in that run, playing 3-4-3, we beat Man United, we beat Liverpool, we beat Man City, just by the tactical awareness we had as a team because of the way we were coached. It was, again, I've been fortunate, I think to Tony Mowbray's team, Gordon Strachan, I feel like I've always played in teams that are quite gung-ho, give goals away, probably my fault most of the time, but play real attacking, exciting football, and that's how I like it, and that's what, as a coach, that's what I've tried to be. I tried to get my teams to play that way because I believe, whilst you need to win, I think you need to win a certain way as well, and I believe in that style of football.
Just one final touch before we go into, obviously, your coaching side. Just how good was Sean Maloney?
I was with him today. I just went to see him today. He was a brilliant player, one of the best players I played with throughout my career, not just on talent, on work ethic, in the gym. Pre-season, he would always go away himself before we came back in to work on his fitness. I think he'll probably be the first to admit he was obsessed. And in the early part of his career, I think it led to injuries. And when he came to Wigan, he was late 20s. He chilled a bit. He had the odd beer on a Saturday night. I would take him out and have 4 or 5, and he would have 1, which I think it chilled him a little bit, and it allowed him to play his best football. So I think there's a real case for that balance in life. That yes, you need to train hard. Yes, you need to work, but you need to have that balance to be mentally in a good place, because if you're not, it can lead to injuries if you're too anxious, if you're too uptight. But late in his career, when he was at Wigan for a season, he was, in my opinion, one of the best players in the Premier League, even though he would never get that credit because he was playing for Wigan. But he scored a wonder goal against Man United. He scored at Anfield. He scored free kicks at the Emirates. He was actually scoring a free kick every week nearly at the end of that season, and that was when we won the cup, and nearly kept us in the league single-handedly because of his performances. And he was one of my best mates in football, but definitely one of the best players I've played with as well.
Obviously, you said that playing that attacking football, attractive football, was what you wanted to carry on into your coaching career. Was it as easy as it seemed when you moved from, well, you were still player manager, obviously, at Wigan?
Was it easy? It feels easy after my 2 jobs after. It feels easy now. It wasn't easy at the time. It wasn't easy because I was sitting in a changing room with guys who were my mates, and then the next day I was in the manager's office, and I had to pick a team, drop some of them, and I was fortunate in a sense that I got the job. We were 7 points behind with, 6 games to go. relegation was pretty much inevitable. We hadn't won a home game all season. So in that summer, we did get relegated, and in that summer, 90% of the squad left. So then I could totally rebuild my own team, and every player I signed weren't my teammate. You know, they seen me as the manager, even though I was 32 years old. I was a very young manager. Some players I signed were older than me, but it allowed me to really kind of make a mark on the squad and build my own squad the way I wanted it to look. And it's still to this day my one and only full season as a manager, and we managed to win the league, which was, you know, having won leagues as a player and won cups as a player, to win it as a manager was a 10 times better feeling because of the work that got put in, the connection with the club, the people you're working for. You feel so much more connected to the football club because, you know, you feel like everything, you know, you're involved in everything, and every decision goes towards winning that trophy. But absolutely loved that squad of players, loved the people I was working with, and, you know, that was probably the highlight of my whole career. Even, you know, going to play and to do that as a manager was really special.
Like you say, in your only full season, yet you've gained promotion. So was the whole exit from Wigan, was it a bit surprising? Did you feel you were maybe a little bit hard done by?
Really surprising. David Sharp, the chairman, the young chairman, I still speak to him now. We had an amazing relationship at our time at the club, but you know, he said it himself. Certain things were happening behind the scenes, and he regrets making that decision. We were 14 games into the championship season. We had a budget that placed us in the bottom three. We were sitting third bottom, but of the last 5 games, we had won 1, drawn 3, and lost 1. So it wasn't form that, you know, would get a manager sacked, so to speak. Yes, we weren't where we wanted to be, but we understood how difficult the season was going to be. The team was starting to find its feet in the league, and the big disappointment for me was not, you know, we had a vision when we started. We wanted to take Wigan back to where we both associated it. So he, you know, when his granddad, Dave Whelan, was the owner and chairman, he was a supporter going to the games, and I was the player. And we both had that vision of taking them back to the Premier League, and not being allowed to do that, and not working with a group of players that I had such a connection with. And then, you know, having been at the club 7.5 years, the connection I had with the staff, my secretary, the doctor, everyone at the club, that was by far my worst day in football, when I had to leave, go in and kind of pack my office up and say goodbye to everyone was a really difficult day.
You touched upon that your next 2 managerial roles weren't so successful. Do you think you maybe jumped into Chesterfield a little bit too quickly?
Yeah, without a doubt. That was the Partick Thistle one for different, you know, was brilliant, and then for a short period wasn't great, but loved that club. The Chesterfield one was a disaster from start to finish, and the club since has got even worse. And now, thankfully, the people that are involved, you know, care for the club. Some of the people that are involved now were involved in the community side of it, were really nice people. It was potentially a great club, but just been run badly. And I quickly realised, as a young manager who needed help anyway, that, you know, if you ain't got that support, even as the best manager, you know, you look at the best managers that, you know, play the Guardiolas, the Jurgen Klopps, you need people, good people around about you, and lots of them to allow you to do your job. And I didn't have that at Chesterfield. I made loads of mistakes, as any young manager would. I learned more in that period than I have at either, you know, Wigan or Partick Thistle, and I think it's made me a better manager. But it was definitely the wrong decision, the wrong club at the wrong time, and I learned that obviously then going into my next job, that I had to do more due diligence and be really aware of the club and the people that I was going to be working for.
Did you, though, enjoy your time at Partick Thistle?
I loved it. Yeah, I loved the challenge. I loved the people at the club. The board were by far the best board I've ever worked for. Jackie Lowe, and all the board members, Jerry Britton, the chief exec. We had a clear plan. It didn't start well. There was problems within the club that, like every club, you know, even when you're doing well, you have problems. You have to deal with these day to day and work through that. But I had a vision of where I wanted to take the club. It was very much aligned to the way Jackie wanted to take the club and where the club wanted to go. And then kind of what happened with the boardroom struggles, and I think nothing in football would ever surprise me because of the things that I've seen over the years, but that was a strange one. That was a really strange period. Again, during that period, there's little things I would possibly have changed, how I would have dealt with it. But I think when you're in those, hindsight's a brilliant thing. When you look back at things and really analyse them when you're in it, I'm always, like I said, I'm positive. I always believe I can, you know, fight my way out of things or fix certain things that I can maybe see are wrong. And it was probably inevitable in that period that I lost my job. I think as soon as the new board came in, there was no relationships, there was no personal touch, there was no support towards myself or Brian. And then, should that affect results? No, is the answer. But does it? Yes, because again, I think players and everyone can feel when there's not that togetherness within the club, and it just creates a different atmosphere, which somehow affects results. And we were a bit unfortunate that the results affected the league, really, because our cup form was excellent. We beat Ross County, we drew with Hamilton, and then we lost. The one crazy game was the Morton game where we were 2-0 up and lost 3-2. We lost 3 goals late in the second half. Then ended up with 9 men against Ayr United. We were 2-1 up and got beat 3-2 with 9 men and lost to Dundee United, who were always going to win the league. So again, having spoke to Jackie, I don't think I'd ever have lost my job if the old board were there. So again, it was a frustrating one because we felt like we were making progress in what we wanted to do, and that all changed when the board changed.
What you've learned from your 3 managerial stints, do you envisage yourself getting back into that sort of role?
Yeah, I would love to. I'd love to get back into football. I miss the day-to-day coaching. I believe I've got a lot to offer in a coaching side, and in terms of, is that the manager, is it an assistant manager, is it a coach? I'm open to anything. I think what I've learned is it has to be the right club with the right people who are, you know, we're aligned in how we see the game, how we see development, how we see, you know, dealing with people, creating the right values and behaviours at a football club to get success. That doesn't happen overnight. You can't click your fingers and that happens. So getting the right people in the right football club, I think, is very important. But I would love to get back in because I love it. I love the game. I love the day-to-day with players, preparing training, and the matches, the excitement in matches and games. So, but it needs to be obviously with the Chesterfield experience, it needs to be the right club.
How much are you enjoying right now your wee punditry stint?
Yeah, I enjoy it. It keeps me in the game. With COVID, it's been so difficult to get to games that, you know, I was in Inverness last week, and it just feels surreal when you get to a game, because even down here, you know, people who I know really well, they can't get me into stadiums sometimes because you have to be connected to a club or a scout, and, you know, so it's really difficult for them. It's not like, you know, normally even when I'm out of work, I'd go to a game every Saturday to just keep myself watching games and seeing players and looking at different systems and how different managers work. So that's been frustrating. Normally I'd go in and watch training. So I was fortunate. I spent 3 days with Brendan Rodgers. I'd been in to see Sean Dyche. I've been over to Ghana to an academy out in Ghana and spent a week there. So I've done things like that to try and develop my coaching and learn from people who are respecting the game. And that's, for COVID, you can't go into training grounds because of all the COVID bubbles and different things. So the punditry work has been brilliant in that regard to get me out to games, and I'm enjoying it a lot in terms of analysing and again trying to constantly try to develop and try to learn and improve in any way I can.
You get yourself a wee bonnet hat like Strachan on Celtic TV. Honestly, I could ask you another 1,000 questions. I really could. One final one for you though, because I can't not talk about this. What was it like scoring that goal against France?
Yeah, that's I think that'll be on my gravestone when I die. That goal. I've showed the kids it many times.
Rightly.
Because they see me now. I had my hips replaced actually 3-4 years ago when I was 35. When I was at Chesterfield, actually, when I was coaching, the pain even then was too much. I couldn't play around the golf, so I went to see the surgeon who done all the surgeries when I was playing, and he said I would get a replacement. Your quality of life will be so much better. But even still, I must admit, when I kick the ball now, it's not great. So the kids, they can even beat me out the back, and when I show them the clips, they kind of look as if they see, is that you? And I've got the shaved head. They say, Dad, why did you used to shave your head? I said, because I wasn't hard and it made me look a bit hard. So it was to trick the man I was playing against. And so, yeah, I show them that. But that was, I said at the time, I remember saying after it, I hope it's not the highlight of my Scotland career, because I hope we qualify for a major final. That would eclipse that feeling, and we didn't manage to do that. So now that I'm kind of retired and looking back, by far it was the highlight, and an amazing day. Walter Smith, tactically at his very best, had prepared the team brilliantly against a world-class team with the best players in the world at the time, and yet a group of guys who had a plan and again had that spirit, had that togetherness. It just shows you in football that you can achieve anything if you have that. It gives you a real chance in any football match against anyone. So I'm delighted, obviously, to score the winning goal as a defender. To score any goal doesn't happen often, but to score, which I now say it was a half volley from 18 yards, but when the kids see it, they see it wasn't quite that. But nonetheless, it went. And I always tell them, if it hits the net, then it doesn't matter how you score, as long as it hits the net. So it was a special day.
Is there a little bit of, you're that next generation of obviously have qualified for Scotland, qualified for a major tournament, for Scotland. Do you feel like you've just missed out? Is there any sort of, obviously there's a lot of talk that 6, 7, 8 sort of squad never really hit the heights that it should have. Is there more pain than now that this generation have made it?
Not at all. No, I watched it with my youngest boy. He was actually wanting an England strip. He's born in England and all his mates are English. He was actually in the same class as Wayne Rooney's boy at school. So he was wanting an England strip, and then we watched that game, and after it he said, Dad, I want a Scotland strip for my Christmas.
There we go.
He's got a Scotland strip. They've got the Scotland hoodies and T-shirts. We are fully kitted out for the Euros, so I'm thankful of that. But no, I'm not sad I missed out at all. I remember my last game for Scotland just being in pain for the whole game with my hips, and I remember Gordon actually had a right go at me in the change room, and I can't even remember what I said to him, but I knew I got in the plane, and I thought I'm never playing for my country again. And I'm never one for, I don't like people who retire and make a big song and dance, because I always think if Scotland wanted to pick me tomorrow, then I'd play for Scotland. I don't think that's going to happen, like I said, but I don't see this need to retire for your country and make it about me. Playing for my country was special, but it was always about Scotland. And like I said, I'll hold out hope that maybe one day, but I would never retire for playing for my country.
Make sure Steve Clark hears this. Gary, thank you so much for joining me. Like I say, I could speak to you easily for another hour, but all is left to say is thank you so much for joining me on Soccer Supernova.
Thank you. Thanks, Amy.